An old man once ruled oceans with ships and fortunes, but now sits forgotten on a broken bench holding a dying sunflower until a barefoot little girl places her hands on his head and whispers 4 impossible words. I can heal you. What happens next will not only shake his soul, but spark a wave of kindness that transforms an entire city in the most unexpected way. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where are you watching from. Now let's jump into the story. Roland Marshall drew thin breath as dawn wavered over the river. The rough bench beneath him smelled of old rain, yet held his weakening frame. For months he returned to this spot, a quiet nook beneath bending willows where gull cries tangled with passing barges. The former shipping magnate now looked like a coat left out in winter. His blazer hung loose patches of gray, threading his once black hair. He clutched a wilted sunflower, Lena's favorite bloom, its bent petals a reminder of promises he could no longer keep. Doctors spoke of tumors, stockholders whispered of replacement. His children sent brisk texts ending with "Love you, Dad." Loneliness settled heavier than the illness, and every sunrise pressed the weight deeper. He might have stayed locked in that sorrow, if not for the soft scuff of bare feet upon gravel. He lifted his eyes expecting another hurried commuter. Instead he saw a small girl no taller than his elbow, her skin the warm brown of river silt. After rain, her dress patched with mismatched cloth stars. Wild curls fanned around her like a night sky. She stood a breath away, studying him with an intensity that felt older than years. Roland tried a thin smile, but his lips trembled. The girl reached out without a word and placed both hands against his forehead. Her palms were cool, yet a gentle current of heat seemed to flow from them. Before he could protest, she spoke in a voice so steady it sounded rehearsed by angels. I can heal you, she said. 5 simple words carried on morning mist. Hope flickered inside Roland like a match struck in darkness. He searched her face for signs of mockery, yet found only an earnest calm. Why would you say that? He rasped, his throat raw from nights of silence. The girl did not answer with science or scripture. She merely offered her name, Nala, and nodded toward the maze of alleys behind the levee. Come and see, she whispered. Roland hesitated. Sickness tugged at his gut, grief chained his ankles. Still the curiosity she sparked felt stronger. With effort he rose, joints crackling like broken rigging. His sunflower slipped from his lap, but Nala caught it in midair, tucking the weary flower behind her ear, as though crowning herself with daylight and smiling like dawn itself. She reached for his hand, her grip surprising in its confidence. Roland allowed himself to be led. Each step away from the bench felt like walking off the map of his failures and into a region where the impossible might breathe. The alleyways narrowed into ribbons of shadow between worn brick walls. Graffiti dragons curled beside rusted doors. Stray kittens darted beneath bins. Roland's expensive shoes splashed through puddles, reflecting paint like stained glass. Several times nausea surged, and he leaned on crumbling stone. Each pause found Nala waiting, humming a soft tune. At last they slipped through an iron arch, swallowed by ivy, and city noise fell away. Roland stepped into a courtyard hidden from every map he knew. Cracked flagstones made accidental mosaics around a dry fountain. A dozen children, barefoot and bright-eyed, whirled in play. They chased paper planes and drummed on a paint can. Instead of staring, they cheered his arrival as if expected. A boy missing one shoe flashed a grin. A girl fluttered a ribbon. Laughter echoed off brick like bells combing through Roland's fears. Nala led him to the fountain's edge, patting a sun-warmed stone, and he sat. Lightness touched his spine. Children darted, weaving tales of pirates and dragons. One placed a bitten apple in his palm, another laid a string of dandelions across his shoulders. Roland tried to protest, but the courtyard hushed his doubts. He watched the ragged choir spin joy from nothing, their faces dusty yet shining within. His chest loosened, and a laugh escaped, hoarse yet real. The children erupted in applause, as though he had played a grand concerto. For a moment Roland forgot doctors and deadlines. He felt alive. Twilight glazed the bricks amber when Nala touched His arm, her voice like gentle drums. "You will feel the change if you return," she said. Bring stories." Roland nodded, realized he did not want to leave. She pressed the sunflower into his hand, petals bright against violet dusk. "Tomorrow," she promised. "Tomorrow," he echoed. He glanced back once, the children dancing slow, their silhouettes flickering like lantern shadows. A cool breeze carried mint and damp earth. Stepping onto the main street, he found the city lights softer, every lamp a little like hope. And for the first time since Lena's passing, he whispered into the evening, "What if I am not finished yet?" Roland woke before dawn, hunger for purpose stronger than the ache in his ribs. He bundled bread, cheese, and clear water into a faded tea towel. Rain freckles cooled his cheeks as he slipped from the silent penthouse into a blushing street. Each stride toward the river felt lighter than last night's painful shuffle. Colors returned along the skyline, in gentle rose and amber. He whispered Nala's name like a compass, letting her memory tug him forward. For the first time in months, he walked toward hope rather than away from pain. The maze of alleys swallowed him with echoes of dripping eaves and rattling cans. Puddles mirrored ribbons of sunrise while graffiti vines climbed cracked brick. His polished shoes splashed, yet he did not slow because promise hummed in his chest. At the ivy-veiled arch he paused, breathing mint-scented air. Pushing leaves aside, he stepped into the hidden square, and a burst of cheers met him. Dozens small faces, bright as lanterns, surged forward, forming a ring of warmth that melted the chill in his bones. Nala led the welcome, sunflower tucked behind. Her ear glowing like a pocket sun, she guided Roland to a wooden board, resting on crates proudly called the morning table. He unpacked bread and cheese while Malik drummed a tin rhythm, and Ivy passed chipped cups. Slices traveled hand to hand, tasting richer than any feast Roland once hosted. As they ate, the children spoke with shining eyes rather than words, telling him you belong. Each smile stitched new courage into his tired heart. After the meal, Nala opened a weathered notebook thick with pressed leaves. "Today lemon balm," she announced, lifting green sprigs toward the light. She taught how to bruise a leaf so its calming scent could rise, and how to steep it into honeyed tea that hushes fear. Roland crushed a leaf between trembling fingers, surprised by the clean rain smell. One sip curled warmth through his chest, loosening nausea from its grip. In that gentle moment, he saw healer, teacher, and lighthouse shining in one brave child. Work followed lessons as naturally as dawn follows night. Broken planks became benches, and a leaking gutter turned into a bright arc feeding barrels. Roland hammered beside Finn, whose lone shoe flapped, yet never slowed his dance. Each nail driven felt like a heartbeat, finding steady rhythm. Sweat streamed. Yet instead of weakness came a rise of strength. By midday, the courtyard hummed like a small kingdom blooming from forgotten stones, yet sparks of hope draw shadows. A sharp whistle sliced the air, and two city officers stepped through the arch, clipboards ready. They recited safety codes, squatter laws, and a looming demolition order that could scatter the children. Fear fluttered across young faces like startled birds. Roland straightened despite shaking limbs, greeting the officers with calm respect. He explained the square harmed no one and shielded innocence, offering his full name and intent. They demanded documentation, and he provided an old leather wallet bearing his identity, Roland Marshall. Surprise flickered in their eyes, yet they granted only 1 week to bring the courtyard to code. Nala's shoulders drooped until Roland knelt, placing a hand over her notebook. "Remember the lemon balm," he whispered. "It chases fear, and we will chase fear too." Children leaned closer, soaking his confidence like sunlight on cool stone. He vowed to satisfy every rule and guard their refuge. The pledge settled in their hearts like glowing coals, sparking fresh resolve. Tiny cheers fluttered around the ivy walls as hope reignited. Dawn after dawn, progress unfolded. Roland bartered a gold watch for lumber and a silk tie for seed packets. Jasper, a young architect, appeared, offering free sketches mapping skylights, ramps, and exits. Neighbors donated paint tiles and coats, curiosity blossoming into kindness. Hammer, rings, and brush strokes painted sunflowers across dull brick barrels brimmed with rain, and the once silent fountain sang again. Ivy led a mural crew while Malik tuned his tin drum into real notes. By sunset, a hand-painted sign reading Riverlight Haven arched above the doorway, proclaiming their dream aloud. Roland's body mirrored the renewal he woke each morning with. Stronger pulse and skin colored by returning life, cough shrinking to a shy whisper. Nala brewed nettle for strength and dandelion root for blood, each earthy cup raising invisible armor. Yet change loves a test. One afternoon dizziness swooped while he fixed a stare, and he collapsed against the fountain. Children rushed Malik. Whistling seabird calls, Ivy stroking his hair, Nala cooling his brow with a damp cloth. Within minutes, steadiness returned, gratitude flooded his eyes, and he saw in their faces a circle stronger than medicine. Sparks of change had become living, flame ready to face whatever storm would come. Morning light spilled across a small cafe where Roland Marshall unrolled blueprints beside Jasper Vale, the young architect. Cups of lemon balm tea steamed between them. Roland mapped bunks and windows while Jasper added ramps, gardens, and a sunflower. Skylight. Each pencil stroke turned hope into timber. They dreamed classrooms lined with bright books and long tables where no child would feel alone. Before leaving, they scratched their initials on a napkin, rolled it like a flag, and tucked it inside the tube. Both men felt that tiny gesture plant roots of courage none could erase. Leaving the cafe, Roland strode to a private bank where portraits of stern captains watched. He sold a silent yacht and idle shares, turning cold fortune into living seed. The clerk stared at the figure while Roland felt lighter. Outside, he tossed his last business card into the river. That night, lanterns flickered in the courtyard as he announced the purchase of an empty warehouse by the docks. Cheers lifted and Nala laughed. "You bought us a castle." Later, he caught his reflection, noticing grief's lines had eased. He whispered, "Lena, your sunflower is growing." A passing stranger slipped a coin into his pocket, believing him poor, a reminder that kindness travels in circles. Work began at dawn. Whistles. Volunteers drawn by rumor arrived with hammer stories and radios. Ivy painted rolling waves across brick, while Malik balanced on scaffolding, stringing flags from scrap sailcloth. Jasper marked escape routes and ramps. Roland hauled beams, muscles aching yet joyful. When he tired, Nala brewed nettle tea that tasted of courage. Seedlings pushed through cracked pots, basil, parsley, tiny sunflowers. Laughter mixed with hammer clang, weaving a small city inside the larger and different one. Music floated over the site when a busker named Amber arrived, trading her violin for lunch, her bow guiding every swing of a hammer. Neighbors paused to listen, then stayed to paint. Even stray dogs curled nearby, sensing peace. Every sight, sound, and scent stitched belief that this place would stand against cold nights. Not all eyes wished them well. One wet morning, Roland entered the tower office of Marshall Shipping, where rival Robert McHale waited. Robert called him reckless and offered to buy his last shares. Roland held the wooden compass Nala carved, feeling its smooth edge anchor him. With calm voice, he said, "My wealth now sails for children, not ledgers." He signed those shares into a trust, securing Riverlight Haven, while Robert spluttered disbelief. News of the trust flashed across evening screens. Some called him mad, others saint. The courtyard children did not care. They only cheered because the future felt solid beneath bare feet. Nyla danced in chalk stars, telling everyone the paperwork was a giant safety net. Days later, while fitting the skylight, dizziness swept Roland. Jasper and Malik caught him, but blood stained his hand. Hospital lights buzzed, yet scans revealed tumors shrinking beyond logic. Doctors whispered miracle. Roland whispered shared hope. The children visited with paper cranes and herbs coloring the ward. 2 nights later, he slipped back to the site, welcomed by cheers and Malik's steady drum. That night he lay in the narrow hospital bed, listening to rain. Hush on glass, picturing the warehouse glowing and letting that image chase fear from dark corridors of his mind. Inspection approached like thunder, and everyone hustled. Volunteers rewired lights, sanded rails, and copied permits into thick binders. Lavender and fresh paint scented the morning. Officials marched in, stern but softened. At neat bunks labeled herbs and Malik's gentle drum roll. Nala guided them through drills with quiet pride. When the final stamp approved landed, the courtyard exploded in song and blue paper confetti. Jasper rang an old ship bell salvaged from the docks, marking each step, and the children echoed the clang with tin drums and squeals. Every clang felt like a heartbeat, pushing courage outward into the city. Even the inspectors walked away smiling, surprised by their own hearts. Evening settled warm over Riverlight Haven letters, painted in sunflower gold, above the door. Lanterns swayed, casting rings on neighbors, bakers, nurses, and poets who filled the halls. Roland climbed a pallet stage and thanked every helper and Lena, whose portrait glowed beside fresh herbs. Nala lifted the silver compass high, proclaiming this points to kindness. Applause rolled like surf, sealing a promise that hope would live here long after any single hand let go. Outside the windows, fireworks from a riverside festival burst reflection across glass as if the sky itself celebrated. Roland watched the colors and felt Lena's presence in every spark. Sunrise poured honey light over Riverlight Haven. Banners of folded paper cranes twirled above the doorway, spelling welcome with soft rustle. Neighbors drifted in, feeling mystery, tugged their sleeves as Ivy and Moloch guided them across timber floors. Smelling of cedar, Roland stood by the entrance cane, barely touching ground, yet hardly needed because fresh strength filled him. His blazer loose but shoulders steady. Children circled him like living petals, offering giggles and shy Hellisinger. Luca leaned against the railing, humming a gospel refrain, the tune floating like warm wind through open windows. Parents who once hurried past on morning commutes now paused with their children, eyes shining at the unexpected peace unfolding before them. Mid-morning, Amber lifted her violin, letting a hopeful chord float into painted halls. The music wound. Between bunk beds, sky blue blankets, and rows of open books, volunteers carried baskets of bread and soup, filling air with cinnamon and thyme. Laughter spilled like river water as visitors tasted nettle biscuits and declared them magic. Roland felt Lena's sunflower spirit nodding inside his chest. Jasper then led a tour to the rooftop greenhouse where glass panes caught noon sunlight like bright mirrors. Seedlings once cramped in coffee tins now reached tall tomato, basil, and sunflowers, breathing a gentle breeze. Nala placed the first ripe tomato in Roland's hand, its skin red as carnival ribbon. Juice ran down his wrist, and children squealed, seeing the gray-haired magnate lick his fingers like a carefree boy. Classes began that afternoon. Ivy told stories beneath a mural of starlit ships, inviting shy listeners to add their own tales. Malik tapped a real drum, guiding toddlers to clap steady rhythms. Even Thin, once limping on one shoe, now waved a conductor baton, leading a tin pan band. Elderly sisters set up chessboards, teaching strategy beside kindness. Every echo scraped dust from city stone, revealing vivid brick beneath. Each note stitched hope deeper into place. Twilight tested this joy when shattered glass glittered near. The west window slurs sprayed in fresh paint. Fear pricked young eyes, yet Roland stepped forward, cane striking ground like gavel. "We answer harm with harder love," he declared. Firefighters on break offered plywood, painters turned shards into mosaic hearts by sunrise. Nala whispered cracks. "Let more light dance inside," and her words settled like seeds, ready to sprout. 3 days later, officials marched through, silver badges shining. They checked rails, permits, and herb labels written in Nala's careful script. Roland showed ledgers, proving the Haven lived on his own fortune and city donors. Impressed, the officials marked Riverlight Haven a model of civic courage. Cheers echoed, banners unfurled, showing giant sunflowers hugging tiny homes. Radio waves carried news across the city, and kindness answered fast. A bakery promised daily loaves, while an elderly carpenter taught children to carve comfort stones from driftwood. A technology club donated tablets for lessons, loading them with language apps. Amber composed a song named Compass of Light, and neighbors hummed it while hauling paint. Roland, listening, felt Lena whisper, "You turned mourning into music." On Midsummer Eve, celebration unfurled. Lanterns lined balconies like small moons. Tables overflowed with saffron rice, honey cake, and stew. Ivy arranged benches so strangers met, forging New stories with each bite. Sunset faded, and Amber's violin soared toward the river. Silent fireworks donated by harbor workers. Blossomed violet teal and sunflower gold across night water reflecting into the windows like welcome spirits when. Sparks settled. Roland climbed a pallet stage, Lena's portrait glowing behind him. He thanked carpenters, cooks, poets, guards, and above all the children whose wild hearts taught a weary man to breathe. He raised an envelope announcing the deed, placing Riverlight Haven into a community trust so greed or illness could never lock its doors. Applause thundered, then hushed as he slipped a silver compass on a ribbon around Nala's neck, calling it a guide for all lost. Morning scandals passed flame to flame until the courtyard shimmered, brighter than the skyline. Roland lifted his candle and called, "Carry this glow." Every voice echoed, weaving through alleys, rooftops, and the river wind. Standing there, he felt Lena beside him, felt every gone moment return as gentle light later when guests drifted home. The compass at Nala's throat glinted under stars. She and Roland sat on the fountain edge listening to distant gulls. How far can kindness travel, she wondered. Farther than any ship I ever owned. He laughed, watching moonlit ripples dance. They rose and walked through halls where lamps glowed. Steady, a lighthouse built from every shared loaf, every brave hand, and every note of music. Their harvest of kindness ready to feed anyone who dared to believe in simple grace.